Thank you, Sarah. Welcome to the September 21st, 2022 board meeting. My name is Songo, President of the board. Before we convene, I would like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. This meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 11133. Members of the public may participate via WebEx using the link provided on the agenda. Participants watching the webcast will only be able to observe the meeting. Information and instructions are posted on our website to join the WebEx as well as the webcast. As included on the agenda, if a quorum of the board is not present, consistent with the provisions of Business and Professions Code Section 4309C and the board's policy, a committee of the board will consider the petitions today and make recommendation to the full board that will be subject to review by the full board in accordance with Government Code Section 11517. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allot 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. I'd also now like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions to members of the public participating via WebEx. Moderator?
Hello, this is the moderator. To facilitate public comment today, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board president reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, public comment will be requested. At the board's direction, I will turn on and announce the opening of the Q&A feature. For members of the public participating in the meeting via a computer or tablet, you may indicate that you wish to make a public comment in the Q&A box or by clicking the raise hand icon at the bottom of the participant panel. For members of the public connecting to the board meeting by calling in, you may indicate you wish to make a public comment by pressing *3 on your device to raise your hand. I will then call on individuals with raised hands after all individuals who have entered their request via the Q&A feature have been given their chance to make public comment. Please wait until the moderator has introduced you before making your comments. If you change your mind and do not wish to make a comment anymore, you may press *3 on your device to lower your hand. After you have made your comment, please lower your hand by pressing *3. For members of the public, it's not necessary to identify yourself in order to make a public comment, and we will be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. At the conclusion, your microphone will then be muted and we will move on to the next member of the public who has public comment. Please note that the Q&A feature is only being used as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. Once you are unmuted, that person may verbally state their comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the board, and such inquiries submitted using this feature will not be answered. And I believe that is the end of my instructions, so I will pass it back over to you, Board President.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. All right, now I'd like to take a roll call to establish a quorum as included on the agenda. If a quorum of members is not present, as part of my discretion, we will proceed as a committee. Members, as I call your name, please remember to open your line before speaking. Maria Serpa? Not here. Jig Patel is not here. Renee Barker?
Professional member here.
Thank you, Renee. Indira Cameron Banks is not here. Jesse Crowley?
Licensee member present.
Good morning, Jesse. Jose de la Paz?
Member of the public present.
Good morning, Jose. Kula Koenig is not here. She might be joining us later after 12. Ricardo Sanchez is not here. Nicole Tebow?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Nicole. Jason Wise is not here, and I am here. Unfortunately, as a quorum was not established, we will proceed as a committee. I will now open the meeting for public comments for items not on the agenda. I'd like to remind members of the public that you're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. I would also like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion, rather an opportunity for members of the board and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. Moderator, we are ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand icon. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. Moving on to the next agenda item 3, recognition and celebration of pharmacist license in California for 40 years and other recognitions. As you may recall, several years ago, the board changed its recognition program for pharmacists and currently recognizes pharmacists that have been licensed for 40 or more years. This information is posted on our website, and pharmacists are provided with a certificate. Prior to transitioning to remote meetings, the board routinely provided an opportunity for pharmacists licensed for 40 years to attend the board meeting and be recognized by the board. Although we have returned to remote meetings, I would like to provide an opportunity for the board to recognize pharmacists that have been licensed in California for 40 years. Moderator, now I'd like to ask that you open up the Q&A feature to allow pharmacists attending today that would like to be recognized by the board for 40 years of service as a California licensed pharmacist. If anyone is in the attendance, I know it's a little awkward as a remote meeting, but if anyone is in the attendance who is a 40-year pharmacist, please raise your hand or just identify yourself. I understand you may be shy, but you don't have to. But if you are here, please do.
This is the moderator. At the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access that Q&A panel and submit their requests.
All right. I think no one today is in the attendance, but hopefully we'll be doing this at every meeting. It's not anything that's too grandiose, unfortunately, but you deserve some shout out at least. So please join us, and we will recognize you for your service to the Californians for all those years. Thank you still for always for all your service for the 40-year pharmacists and all the pharmacists out there that are working so hard, and all the licenses and non-licensed that are serving the Californian public. All right, we're moving on to the next agenda item 5, petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination, or other modifications of penalty. As we do not have a quorum, as a reminder, consistent with the provisions of Business and Professions Code Section 4309C and the board's policy, we will proceed as a committee of the board to consider the petitions today and make recommendation to the full board that will be subject to review by the full board in accordance with the Government Code Section 11517. I would like to turn the meeting over to ALJ at Washington to preside over the hearing. And before I do that, moderator, I just want to make sure we'll be going in the order that is agendized in the agenda. If you could just make sure all the petitioners and their attorneys, if they are present, to be ready. And please let us know if you need any quick break to set them up. But looks like you're ready to go. So if you are ready, please let us know.
Great, this is the moderator. Looks like we have our first petitioner up, Jason Shabbat. And Jason, can I get a quick mic check from you?
And his video also needs to be up, so.
Hello?
All right, looks like we can hear you and see you.
Perfect. All right, Your Honor, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And before we get started, I did want to confirm who was present and who was not. I've used WebEx, but I'm not as familiar with it as I'd like to be because it's not our standard
Sure,
our
I'm
standard
going to have
video
a
item.
roll call for you whenever you need.
Okay, so and I followed roll call, just I wasn't sure that I heard everyone that wasn't here. My understanding is Dr. Serpa is not here, Mr.
He's
Patel
not.
is not here, Ms. Cameron Banks is not here, Dr. Crowley is not here.
Oh,
Ms.
Dr. Crowley is here.
Oh, okay. Ms. Koenig is not here, Mr. Sanchez is not here, and Mr. Weiss is not here.
Right. And we have Renee Barker, Jesse Crowley, Jose de la Paz, Nicole Thibault, and myself present.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, and so our first matter, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the first matter, and I don't know whether all the other petitioners are connected at this point. I generally provide instructions to the petitioners before we get started, and if the other petitioners are on the line, they will know that those instructions apply to them and I don't need to repeat myself. Or if they are not and they're going to connect later, then I can just go through my instructions with each petitioner.
As far as from previous experiences, they all should be here at this moment, but I mean, it's not a requirement, but they all should be here, so.
Okay, that is also consistent with my experience, but looking at the panelists, I'm not sure that I see everyone unless they're listed as attendees. Okay, I see some of them there. So I think what I'll do is I'll go through the instructions and I'll just confirm with each petitioner that they have heard those instructions. Okay, so I'm going to call the matter, and then Mr. Shavad, we will go through the instructions and we will proceed. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So we are on the record, and we are here to review 6 petitions for reinstatement, early termination, or of probation, or other modification of penalty. The cases that I have listed here are the Jason Shavad case, the Laura Trovato case, the Fernaz Madavi case, the Adel Yaqub Al-Badawi case, the ProCare Pharmacy case, and the VJ Shalat case, which I believe is also connected to the ProCare Pharmacy case. If I have mispronounced anyone's names, my apologies. I'll do my best to get through it. Feel free to correct me when I call your matter if I have made an error in pronunciation. These matters are being heard before the Board of Pharmacy. Will all the members of the board please identify themselves for the record?
Renee Barker, licensee member present.
Jose de la Paz, member of the public, present.
Jesse Crowley, licensee member, present.
Nicole Thibault, licensee member, present.
Sung Oh, licensee member present.
And as stated by President O earlier, we do not have a quorum, but this matter will proceed as a committee. Again, as earlier described, just wanted to be sure I had that on my record. So the first item that we are addressing here is the petition for early termination of Jason Shavad. The Office of Administrative Hearings number for this matter is 2022090-517. The agency case number for this matter is 6347. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, good morning. I'm Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role here is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest.
Thank you very much. And may I take the appearance of the petitioner, Mr. Shavad, if you could state your name for the record?
Jason Shavad.
All right. And good morning to you as well.
Thank you. You as well.
So I'm going to go through some brief instructions before we get started. Again, to give you an understanding as to how the hearing will proceed and to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. In this proceeding, the board is concerned with hearing about any rehabilitation since your license was disciplined. The Deputy Attorney General will first present your petition package and provide background information on this matter. After that, you will have the opportunity to make your presentation. I remind you that the board has had the benefit of reading the petition package, and you do not have to necessarily repeat the package verbatim, word for word, line by line. What I generally recommend is that you focus on the portions of your packet that you believe are the most supportive or persuasive for your request. You will then be subject to questioning by both the board members and the Deputy Attorney General. After you have presented your information and we have obtained information from all petitioners, we will go into a closed session to deliberate, and you will not receive your decision today. It will be mailed to you in the future. Understood?
Yes.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I do not.
Okay, one thing I do like to emphasize, since we are all these days meeting over video and audio conferences, is we want to be sure, if at all possible, to speak one at a time. It is common in everyday conversation to sort of speak over each other because you can anticipate what the other person is going to say, but it is almost impossible to get a clear recording of two people speaking at once. So I want you to be sure that you wait until the question is complete before you answer, and we will all do our best to wait until you have completed your question before asking the next question. Understood? Mr. Shavat?
Yes.
Okay. We also want to avoid sounds like and nods and shakes of the head, because again, those are difficult to accurately record. Okay, and with that said, I'm ready for the background information on this petition. You may proceed when ready, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter first arose via an accusation which was filed March 30th of 2018. It was against petitioner's pharmacist license and also his pharmacy license, Nuevo Pharmacy, of which he was the owner and the pharmacist in charge, or PIC. Petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board for probation of both licenses, which became effective on January 23rd, 2019. Ultimately, approximately 1 year later, petitioner surrendered his pharmacy license as part of the sale of the pharmacy. More than 2 years have passed since then, and therefore petitioner is eligible to petition for early termination of probation for his personal license. This is a failure to exercise corresponding responsibility and exercise best professional judgment case. The first cause for discipline was that petitioner failed to comply with corresponding responsibility requirements for legitimate controlled substance prescriptions. In that, petitioner filled approximately 311 prescriptions for a single provider who later lost his medical license for excessive prescribing. This prescriber was approximately 60 miles away from the pharmacy, and patients traveled as far as 57 miles each way to receive that medical treatment, and then traveled again to this pharmacy to obtain the controlled substances. Patients all paid for these prescriptions in cash. The prescriptions were generally identical, with the highest possible amounts of alprazolam and oxycodone. Frequently, those two drugs were even on the same prescription, which is contraindicated. Many patients' prescriptions were dispensed on the same day in the same amounts, which should have given rise to alarm by petitioner. And many of the prescription numbers that were filled on the same day were in fact sequential, as in they were taken off of the prescription pad one after the other. The prescription numbers were sequential. The second cause for discipline is that petitioner clearly excessively furnished controlled substances to the patients, as we just discussed. The third cause for discipline was that petitioner committed gross negligence by filling these prescriptions with all of these red flags. The fourth cause for discipline was that petitioner dispensed prescriptions with significant errors, omissions, irregularities, uncertainties, or alterations, in that he filled the prescriptions just discussed. And the fifth cause for discipline was that petitioner failed to exercise or implement his best professional judgment when dispensing controlled substances, again, as previously discussed. And then finally, the sixth cause for discipline is that petitioner failed to maintain all of the records of disposition of these controlled substances. And now finally, the seventh cause for discipline is unprofessional conduct for all of the actions set forth in the prior 6 causes for discipline. Petitioner is and has been 100% compliant with probation and has paid costs in full in the amount of $5,000. With his petition, the petitioner provided the following documents. He provided a document titled Self-Statement, wherein petitioner discusses his history working in pharmacies, what he has learned, how he has adopted new policies and procedures to ensure that corresponding responsibility and best professional judgment is exercised, which he instituted in his pharmacy until he sold it, and which the new owner continues, and also which he has incorporated in his work in all 3 of the pharmacies that he currently works in. Petitioner came up with what is essentially a small card-sized checklist that has the red flags of controlled substances outlined, with check boxes and then places for explanations to be written in. Petitioner states that while this administrative and disciplinary process has been difficult and painful, he is ultimately a better pharmacist because of it. Petitioner also provided 8 letters of recommendation, all of which were verified. The pharmacist who purchased Petitioner's pharmacy confirms that he adopted Petitioner's policies and procedures because they were excellently laid out and organized. Petitioner's father, who is also an owner and PIC of a pharmacy and with whom Petitioner works, states that Petitioner has learned from his mistakes. A pharmacist who worked for Petitioner at the pharmacy and then became the PIC at Nuevo Pharmacy stated that Petitioner is a good pharmacist and can continue to contribute to the pharmacy profession. He also outlines how Petitioner improved policies and procedures at the pharmacy. A pharmacy technician who either worked or still works at Nuevo Pharmacy stated that Petitioner is very thorough in his duties before filling a prescription, refuses prescriptions with too many red flags, is a good and dedicated pharmacist, and demonstrates strong moral character. A pharmacy technician at Petitioner's father's pharmacy, where Petitioner works, states that Petitioner has been a major help and asset to the pharmacy, verifies prescriptions rigorously, even though they are a dermatological pharmacy with no controlled substances, and is a great asset to the pharmacy. Another letter author who states that she worked at Nuevo Pharmacy, but who doesn't appear to have any license, so maybe as a clerk, stated that Petitioner is a good and caring pharmacist, took time to help any patients whenever he could, and was well loved by his patients. A woman who states that she and her husband are patients of Petitioner states that he is a very good pharmacist, helps people whenever he can, and has worked hard over the past few years to make up for his mistakes. And finally, Petitioner's brother, an attorney, states that Petitioner admitted his wrongdoing, did not offer excuses, and that this lapse in judgment was an isolated incident and completely out of character. Over the past several years, Petitioner has made a goal to better himself and his professional activities. He is a great and knowledgeable pharmacist and is dedicated to his job and caring and attentive to his patients. Petitioner also provided CE certificates for 61.75 hours from July 8th of 2020 through June 1st of 2022. So Exhibit 1, which was previously uploaded to the court, is the petition packet consisting of the documents that I just identified, which also includes the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic recording, and then a memorandum to the board. At this time, I would ask that all of these documents be admitted as Exhibit 1.
All right, the document described by counsel have been marked as Exhibit 1 for identification and are admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And then Exhibit 2 is the underlying decision and order, which includes the underlying accusation as well. And I would ask that that be admitted for the board's consideration also.
All right, the document described by counsel is marked as Exhibit 2 and it is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then at this time, I will cede the floor to Petitioner.
Thank you. Give me just 1 second here. All right, so Mr. Shabbat, now is your opportunity to present your case. You, of course, may testify on your own behalf. Do you have any witnesses that you intend to call?
No, I do not.
Okay, are you ready to testify at this time?
Yes, I am.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may lower your hand. And now would you please state and spell both your first and last name for the record?
Jason Shabbat, Jason, Shabbat, CH, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, T as in Tom.
Okay, thank you. You may begin with your presentation of your case. Please remember to keep your voice up so we can hear you loudly and clearly.
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to thank the board for allowing me to speak here today. Let me begin by saying I've been around pharmacy all my life. My father is a pharmacist, and I started working as a pharmacy clerk when I was 18. I've always been a private, quiet person, but in pharmacy, I found something I could excel at. I graduated near the top of my class in pharmacy school in 2001 and was a member of Roe Chi. I loved pharmacy, and I was good at it. Regrettably, at some point, I strayed far off this path. I would have never expected to be where I am today. I am utterly ashamed for what I have done to the pharmacy community and the public who had trusted me. At the same time, when I was originally placed on probation, I had a mix of feelings: shock, anger, disbelief, and disappointment about my bad choices that led me to the probation. To cope with the stress, I tried to find a myriad of excuses. The excuses came from all directions. It was the patient's fault. It was the doctor's fault. Looking back, it's really very hard to think about it because it was my fault. There have been many sleepless nights thinking back on how and why it happened. With the help and support of my family and friends, I began to realize I would not be able to change what had happened, but could make up for the mistake by re-embracing the profession and helping my patients. I have come to terms with the transgression I have made and wish to finish off the remaining decade or so of my career with a strong commitment to patients, the occupation, and my family. Over the past 4 years, I've grasped a few important things about being a professional, primarily that a license is a privilege. I took this for granted in the past. Back in 2015, I felt that I went to school and I passed the exam, therefore I had a right to a license. During the ethics course that I participated in, I learned that this was a common misconception at this point in one's career. I am now aware this is not the case. Licensure is as much about education as it is about being a professional. As such, it was unprofessional of me not to perform the required validation, documentation, and evaluation of the prescriptions in question. It was my fault and my fault alone. For this, there is no going back, only moving forward with the new knowledge and understanding of my profession that I have gained. Probation, as it has turned out, has been a beneficial learning experience. In addition to recognizing my license was a privilege, I also gained a better understanding of the roles and responsibilities of a pharmacist as a healthcare professional, especially when it comes to corresponding responsibility. Before probation, my primary focus was to fill prescriptions as accurately and quickly as possible. This was my way of providing the best customer service. After probation began, I realized the importance of collaboration between physicians and pharmacists to manage controlled substance prescriptions. Thus, I have changed my approach to verification and dispensing, not only of controlled prescriptions, but all prescriptions. As detailed in the petition packet, I instituted a set of procedures that, in addition to verifying the actual authenticity of the prescription, verified its legitimacy as well. I created a checklist on the pharmacy rules and regulations. I documented patient distance from the pharmacy and the doctor's office, indication for the prescription, evaluation of the cures report, and the payment method. I would not accept payment for controlled substance prescriptions. I would not accept cash payment for controlled substance prescriptions, only filling third party. I constantly communicate with physician's office, not just to verify the legitimacy of the prescription, but also to clarify the therapy and medication choice. Until all the red flags on the checklist were cleared, I would not fill a controlled prescription. Furthermore, I subscribe to the listserv for pharmacy licensing to stay up to date with the physician's license status. I consistently updated the computer system with the status of the physician's license, the location of their practice, and if there was any patterns of prescribing that seemed inappropriate. In addition, I stopped filling all plain oxycodone 30, carisoprodol, and Xanax 2 mg prescriptions. All new prescriptions would be cause for an initial phone call to the physician to verify the prescription and the diagnosis. This took time, but in the end, it became second nature. It also took additional time to have discussions with my patients regarding their use of the medications as part of my regular counseling. After participating in an ethics and law class, I was able to identify some specific character traits that I needed to address. The most relevant being utter avoidance of conflict and difficulty in saying no. I firmly believe, with the help of the procedures I put in place, that this was overcome by having specific criteria to evaluate and make a solid judgment on. During the probation period, I gained extensive knowledge of the scope of the opioid abuse problem through continuing education. I continue to apply that knowledge and wish to be a positive influence, preventing further prescription drug abuse in our communities. Overall, this has been a very long journey. I feel like I'm in a better position today because of the changes that I have made, not only to my approach in filling prescriptions, but my understanding in general of what it is to be a pharmacist. And again, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Questions, Ms. Jarvis?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Is it Mr. or Dr. Shavat?
Doctor, I'm a PharmD.
Okay, thank you.
My apologies.
Dr. Shavat, one thing that I noticed in your recommendation letters is that several of the authors stated that you had filled these prescriptions, quote, years ago or many years ago. Is that how you would characterize it?
It doesn't seem like that because it's fresh in my memory. At this point, it's probably about 10 years ago that this happened. Yeah, so I mean, at this point, I'm detached from it to a certain extent, but I remember exactly what happened, and that influences my decisions now.
Do you believe that had this administrative and disciplinary action not occurred, that you would have continued filling prescriptions with red flags?
I had actually discontinued filling prescriptions from this particular prescriber way before 2018. And that was actually a part of my practice in general, so.
Well, and part of that may be that this prescriber lost his license in 2016. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
Are you aware of the Board of Pharmacy's precedential decision in the Pacifica Pharmacy matter?
Yes, I am.
Were you aware of it at the time that you were filling these prescriptions?
No, I was not.
So Pacifica Pharmacy was made precedential on August 9th of 2013, and the prescriptions that you filled that were alleged in the accusation were up to 2 years later. They were March 6th of 2014 through September 14th of 2015. So during that time period, do you recall doing any CE or reviewing any Board of Pharmacy information about these types of red flags during those 2 years?
You know, honestly, I don't recall specifically doing any CEs at that period, at that point in time. I was still from the school of thought where when I graduated in 2001, that the Holy Trinity was, you know, pretty much standard therapy at that point in time. I don't remember, at least at this point, taking any CEs or anything during that time frame.
And then speaking of that prescriber losing his license in 2016, it was actually December 8th of 2014 that the Medical Board of California filed their accusation against that prescriber, which ultimately led to him losing his license. So that was during the time that you were filling those prescriptions. You continued to fill their prescriptions until September 14th of 2015. Did you ever make it a practice during that time period to check the license status of the prescribers that you were filling?
I think that's one of the things that I learned was the resources that were available to me. I wasn't aware. I was very topically aware of cures, but there wasn't really, at least to my knowledge at that point in time, a way of verifying what the doctor's actual licensure status was. Now I know that I can check in Breeze. It's very easy. And also when I subscribe to the listserv, you get notifications. At the time, I did not know.
And then you've mentioned a lot of the improvements that you've made to your practice since this occurred. So do you now check for the prescribers, check their license status on a regular basis?
Every single prescriber that writes for a controlled substance, I look up in Breeze and I check to make sure that the license status is current or if there's any documentation that's associated with it. Likewise, if I get anything on the listserv, I go through that email basically and check to see if those are any of the physicians that are in the area. I think one of the largest things was changing the distance traveled made it so that there's less prescribers that you're actually reviewing. So it sort of helped, but we documented everything and put it in the computer system. And that was updated at least every 3 months, if not more.
So sometimes what I see in these cases is that the pharmacist will check the prescriber's license status when they first get a prescription from them. So like you get a prescription from them on January 15th, you'll check their license status. But then when you get a prescription from them on December 15th of the same year, you've already filled their prescriptions, so you don't bother to check. Do you check every time you fill, or?
I update a note in the system every 3 months, and that's a minimum, is every 3 months. Sometimes I do it more frequent than that, but in a minimum, I will check on Breeze every 3 months, and I actually have it. I'll put a date on it.
Okay. Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, thank you. I will now turn it over to questions from the board. Dr. O, did you want to proceed first or any particular order, or just have members speak up as they prefer?
We can just go in the order of the roll call. So I would like to just start with Member Barker and then go down that list, if that's okay with you, Your Honor.
That's just fine.
Renee?
You may proceed, Dr. Barker.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, I believe Dr. Crowley would be next.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Shavat. The one question I have is, how did you come up with the idea of developing this checklist, and when did you start implementing it into your practice?
I believe that we started using the checklist, I want to say in 2018. And if I recall, I know that certain other pharmacies were using sort of a similar checklist. My father had told me that that's what they were doing over at Rite Aid. He was working there at the time. So we sort of emulated that to a certain degree, but I think we were a lot more rigorous, especially because that checklist, I had a copy of that, and that was attached to every prescription along with the cures report. And on the refills, every time it was refilled, we would generate the same paperwork. So it was a lot of paperwork, but yeah, we did that every single time.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. I just wanted to wish you luck. And I think there's a lot of good changes that you've made to your practice. So
thank you.
Jose?
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Jose. Nicole?
Hi, Dr. Shavat. Thank you so much for your testimony today. I wanted to ask, you talked about stopping taking prescriptions from this prescriber, and at least part of that being that the prescriber lost his license. Were there other factors that went into that decision, something that came up for you prior to the loss of license that led to that decision?
I believe that I believe that I heard something that there was an issue with the doctor and we stopped taking it earlier than that, but it was a long time ago. So I am having a little bit of trouble remembering exactly what it was.
Great. And were there other providers that you ever red flagged in your pharmacy or took extra steps for or refused to fill around that time or since then?
there was, since then, there's been a large number. At that time, I don't remember there being, there wasn't anything else that was significant.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Dr. Shavat. I just have a few questions. So where do you work now? I believe it's in the petition material, but I just wanted to confirm because name seems like Rancho Pueblo Pharmacy. Is that where you work?
I am working part-time at Rancho Pueblo Pharmacy.
Okay. And then
This is the moderator. If I can just quickly interrupt, it looks like we lost our judge. I'm gonna wait to see if he can reconnect.
Oh.
President, should we take a break for a few minutes and allow the judge to rejoin?
This is the moderator. It looks like Judge Washington's back.
Okay, then we'll continue.
All right. So, Your Honor, are you there?
I think he's muted.
I am. So I assume based on what I've just heard, I'm the only one who dropped? Everyone else is still here. Okay. My apologies. I have no idea what occurred, so I apologize.
Do we need to go back to anything? Are you?
I'm not sure how much I missed, but I would prefer if you did, just to make sure I have it all. When last I heard, and when everything froze, Dr. Crowley had just finished.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If I may suggest, Your Honor, this is recorded,
right?
And I do have some notes. So if you want, you could review the recording, and I can provide you with my notes.
That's fine. And also what I was thinking is if we're going into session later on, I think the most important thing obviously is that the board members have the information. And then it can be discussed there, and I can just take additional notes for anything that I don't already have.
Okay.
Okay.
Renee, and your hand is up, so go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Shavat, thank you for all of your comments. I did have a question about moving, forward in your practice. I think the utilization of, the adoption of a checklist is great. I was wondering how is that utilized throughout the whole pharmacy? I'm assuming it's not just you who's using it. Is that part of the culture of the pharmacy that you're in? Is that a requirement that is used? I'm not sure how many pharmacists work there. And how, I guess off of that is just the accountability. How does someone in the pharmacy know that it's being used and that those are being followed up on?
Well, what we were doing is when the prescription came in, if there was a prescription for a controlled substance, the cures report would be initially printed out, and a checklist would be attached to the prescription, and those two documents would be handed to the pharmacist, and then the pharmacist would then go through and fill out any portions of that basically as a highlight, so that stop and make sure, check each thing. And then that would then be initialed, signed, and any other documentation. I usually had additional notes that I would put on the cures report. I would just write it on there. And then I would attach that to the back of the prescription, and that was filed away with it. Likewise, that was pulled out again for refills if it was something that was refillable. And there was, so you'd have multiple checklists attached to the same prescription.
Okay, I see. So there's not any way that a prescription would come in and could just go straight to a pharmacist, but not have the follow-up
Yeah, I mean,
needed.
when all of the controls were filed, there's not a single one that didn't have anything attached to it. It was all together. Ended up in being a very thick binder.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, Renee. So let me get back to my questions here. So in your words, like, what do you think was the main cause for your lapse in judgment in initially this happening? I'm not trying to bring back the past, but I just kind of want to hear, and so that I can kind of feel the confidence that it will not happen again. Can you just kind of describe that in your own words?
Yeah, I think that the knowledge that I have gained through the CEs that I've taken, including the ethics class and better conflict resolution, especially on my part, one of my big issues was trying to avoid conflict and the inability to say no. And I think the fact that I have this checklist and we have actual policies and procedures that are very spelled out that I can go through has really it's become second nature, and it's just a part of my standard practice now. In addition, I'm counseling patients and I make sure that they have realistic goals about their pain relief so that, we're not excessively using any types of medications, that I'm having constant communication with them in the doctor's office. But to answer your question more specifically, I think that I have much better knowledge than I did before. And like I said earlier, when I had graduated in 2001, I mean, the Trinity was actually like almost standard therapy. So I have learned quite a bit since that point in time.
When this occurred, Dr. Chavat, you are the owner of the pharmacy, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So was there some financial motivation for you, and that if we were to grant you an early termination, do you have interest in pharmacy ownership? Was there, are you interested in being a PIC?
At this time, what I'm interested in doing is just having more than part-time employment. I like where I'm working. I really would like to be able to find additional hours. My son's pretty much starting college a little bit early. So I feel kind of the financial pinch, and I've tried to apply for some jobs, and basically nobody, sometimes they'll talk to you, but they won't really go any further than that. So at this point, I have no interest. I have absolutely no interest in owning a pharmacy. I am not interested at this time in being a PIC as well. I wouldn't necessarily turn it down, but it's certainly not something that I'm seeking at this time.
So even if we were to grant you early termination, you're not really interested in pharmacy ownership and nor being a PIC.
No, it's not something that I'm interested. Again, I'm kind of a quiet, little bit nervous, anxious person, and I think it was just a little bit too much for me, to be completely honest with you. It was, on top of being a PIC, which is a tremendous responsibility, and it's something that I didn't really understand the scope of the responsibility at the time. You're an owner as well, and that is a whole layer of additional pressure. And especially, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm kind of at a point now where I'm just looking to finish off my career in a good way and make up for what I did. And just, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to us. Appreciate you coming for your testimony. I know it's not easy, and good luck to you. Your Honor, I take it back to you.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the petition hearing in this matter, unless you have additional questions, Ms. Jarvis?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. So for this matter, the case is submitted and the record is closed. We are off the record and we'll proceed to the next petition when ready.
Been about an hour, so I'm just going to survey our members. If anyone needs a quick 5-minute break, please raise your hand and speak up, please. Okay, all right, we'll take a quick 5-minute break so that we can get our second petitioner set up, Your Honor. So we'll be back at 9:55.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Your Honor, it looks like all board members are present so back to you.
All right, so we are back on the record, and it is my understanding that Petitioner Travato is here. If so, will you please turn your camera and microphone on? How are you this morning?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. Just want to make sure I could hear you. Were you on the line when I provided the instructions to the previous petitioner?
I was. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
I do not.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to call the matter. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Laura A. Travato. The OAH number for this matter is 2022090-520. The case number for this matter is 6613. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest.
Okay, and may I take the appearance of the petitioner? If you could state your name for the record, please.
My name is Laura Travato. Would you like me to spell it?
I'm going to have you do that once I swear you in.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, would you like the board to take a roll call really quick for the break return?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Renee Barker,
Licensee member present.
Jesse Crawley,
Licensee member present.
Jose de la Paz,
Member of the public present.
Nicole Tebow,
Licensee member present.
and I'm here. Back to you, Your Honor.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, and so I'm ready for your presentation of the background information. Ms. Jarvis, you may begin when ready.
Yes, Your Honor. This matter first arose via an accusation which was filed on February 11th of 2019. It was against petitioner's Pharmacist license and Rady's Children's Hospital of San Diego, doing business as Children's Medical Center Pharmacy, of which petitioner was the pharmacy manager. I will refer to it simply as the pharmacy rather than the entire title, but that's the pharmacy I'll be referring to. Petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board for probation, which became effective on April 15th of 2020. 2 years have passed since then, and therefore the petitioner is eligible to petition for early termination of probation. So I'm going to do this one slightly differently, and I'm going to give you the facts of this case and then the causes for discipline, because the causes of discipline sort of all apply to all the facts, and I couldn't really split them out without a lot of repetition. So from approximately August of 2017 through June of 2018, a pharmacy technician diverted 53 bottles of alprazolam 2 milligram tablets and 119 pints of promethazine with codeine, both of which are not drugs generally prescribed or dispensed to the children at this hospital. This technician accomplished her diversion by placing orders with the pharmacy's wholesaler using the online ordering system, typically on a Friday evening when she could avoid having a pharmacist review, approve, or verify her orders. Then this technician would ensure that she was the technician who put away the order, even though this was a violation of the pharmacy's procedures. The technician would then conceal the alprazolam and promethazine with codeine from the wholesaler in her backpack. Unfortunately, there were very few security measures in place at this time, including security cameras, no separate inventory or log for Schedule 3 through 5 controlled substances, and the pharmacy's policies for security were wholly inadequate, and even then, not followed by Petitioner. And specifically, Petitioner signed off on multiple of these purchase orders as, quote, approved, without reconciling the invoices or doing any other check. She simply trusted the technician. After nearly a year of these thefts, Petitioner noted that the pharmacy purchased 7 pints of promethazine with codeine on 1 purchase order. Petitioner reviewed the inventory for these pints and was unable to find them. Petitioner notified the PIC, who ran a dispensing report, showing that 5,300 tablets of alprazolam, and again, the 119 pints of promethazine with codeine, had been purchased and not dispensed in the previous 12 months and could not be located in the pharmacy's inventory. Additionally, 47 tablets of acetaminophen with codeine 330s were missing from inventory. So the first cause for discipline was that Petitioner failed to maintain a current inventory of controlled substances and suffered a significant loss of controlled substances. The second is that Petitioner failed to provide adequate security for controlled substances. The third is that Petitioner failed to maintain records of acquisition and disposition of these controlled substances. The fourth is that Petitioner failed to exercise or implement her best professional judgment when she failed to recognize the diversion of alprazolam and promethazine with codeine. The fifth is that Petitioner committed gross negligence when she failed to recognize the diversion. And the sixth is that Petitioner committed unprofessional conduct for all of the previously discussed actions. Now, Petitioner is and has been 100% compliant with probation and has paid costs in full in the amount of $3,169.75. Now, with the petition, Petitioner provided the following documents. 6 letters of recommendation, all of which were verified. A pharmacist who has known Petitioner for 9 years states that Petitioner is professional and reliable, collaborative, organized, and is a valuable participant in the pharmacy profession. A pharmacist who has worked with Petitioner for over 9 years states that Petitioner is the go-to pharmacist for any pharmacy questions and is always there to help. A pharmacy supervisor who appears to supervise Petitioner directly states that Petitioner is conscientious and caring and highly recommends that Petitioner be granted early termination of probation. Another pharmacist who works with Petitioner states that Petitioner is professional, dedicated, and a medication expert. A friend states that he has known Petitioner for 13 years through church and co-leads a Bible study with Petitioner. This author states that Petitioner is focused on earning back the trust and respect of her colleagues and members of the Board of Pharmacy. Another friend from church states that Petitioner is an example of serving the community and ministry, has integrity, and is a woman of excellence. Petitioner also provided continuing ed certificates for 83 hours from June of 2020 through August of 2022. So Exhibit 1 is the petition packet consisting of the documents just identified and also including the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic recording, and a memorandum to the board. And I ask that it be admitted for all purposes as Exhibit 1.
The document described by counsel has been marked as Exhibit 1 for identification and is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then Exhibit 2 is the underlying decision and order in this matter and includes the accusation, and I ask that it also be admitted.
The document described by counsel has been marked for identification as Exhibit 2 and is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then at this time, I will cede the floor to Petitioner.
Thank you. Excellent. So, Mrs. Travato, now is your opportunity to present your case. Do you intend to call any witnesses?
I do not.
Okay. Are you ready to testify on your own behalf?
I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you very much. Now that you are under oath, would you please state and spell both your first and last name for the record?
Laura Travato, L-A-U-R-A, Travato, T-R-O, V like Victor, A-T-O.
Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned in my instructions, the board is interested in hearing about any rehabilitation in your case. We have had the benefit of reviewing your documents in advance. So what I would recommend is that you focus on the most persuasive items in your case, and you may present your evidence when ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you to all the board members, Christina Jarvis, Deputy District Attorney, and Judge Washington for hearing my case today. I thank you for the opportunity to bring my petition before you. I'd like, as presented in my packet, I was the manager of the Children's Medical Center Pharmacy at Rady Children's Hospital from July 2017 to July 2018. I'd like to offer a little bit of background information that of my previous employment with them before I became the manager. I became a per diem pharmacist at Rady Children's in 2010 and was hired to do weekend and vacation coverage. It was a very challenging and rewarding job that I loved. It was a privilege to take care of and make a difference in the lives of the children. As time went by, I also formed bonds of friendship and trust with the pharmacy and staff, pharmacists and staff members. In 2014, I had a friend that worked for Sharp, and they encouraged me to also apply for a per diem pharmacy job position that was open there. And to expand my knowledge base, I also applied for that position and received that position. So I had the distinct honor of working at both Children's Medical Center.
Mrs. Travato, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but it looks like we may have lost our judge again.
He still shows on the list, but I can't see him, so.
Yeah, and since he's not speaking up, Sarah, as the host, do you have any insight?
This is the moderator. The only thing I can suggest is if our ALJ can maybe restart his computer and try reconnecting that way.
I also recommend calling in. So
yeah,
at least
that was going to be my second suggestion. Judge Washington, are you still there? I see that you are unmuted.
Can everyone hear me now?
There you are.
Yeah,
Okay. My apologies. Of course, this only happens when I'm in a board meeting. It's happened from time to time and has never happened twice. I've switched over to my backup. My deepest apologies to everyone. Hopefully with this backup Wi-Fi, I won't have any further problems. So we remain on the record. Please continue.
Thank you, Judge. So to reiterate, I don't know what you heard, but I had received a position as also a per diem pharmacist at Sharp Steely Pharmacies in 2014. So I had the honor of working at both the Children's Medical Center Pharmacy and Sharp Steely's. And I was regarded as a respected pharmacist.
That is in fact the last thing that I heard.
Okay.
So I don't think I missed much because Ms. Jarvis jumped right in.
Okay, a respected member of both pharmacy departments. So at Children's Pharmacy, the manager position had not been filled for over a year. And when the position was offered in 2016, I was encouraged by the Children's Pharmacy staff and as well as director of pharmacy to apply for the position. The opportunity seemed to be a way to make a difference and improve the care that was given to our patients, because there was a lack in all of those areas at that time. So I went through the interview process and was offered the position, and I accepted. The problem with that is I was following mostly my heart and intuition instead of really asking a lot of key questions and reviewing expectations for what that pharmacy management position would entail, since I had never been a manager before. So didn't really possess understanding of all the responsibilities. And this became a grave mistake as I started into the position. Within a few months, I was completely overwhelmed by the reality and the magnitude of responsibilities and issues that I needed to address. I was functioning without a lot of training on the ordering system that I think was taken for granted since I'd worked there, that I knew the processes, but I didn't fully understand them. As for the invoices, I only knew how to sign them off for payment and wasn't regarded and trained how to deal with them in other ways. And I just I was on working in burnout because I was overwhelmed, and I'd spent many long hours working every day and was trying my best to improve on what was needed there. Unfortunately, in all of this, I placed a great deal of trust in my pharmacist and the pharmacy staff without verifying that they were following through on all the policies and procedures, especially in regard to the ordering and checking in of orders when I wasn't there. When I was there, I would help in that process, but I was not there on the weekends because I spent so many hours there during the week. I did come in on some weekends, but not every weekend. So unfortunately, this led to the opportunity for one of the technicians who I'd worked with for many years there to place the orders during the Friday nights and divert the controlled substances on the weekends. This discovery and all that it entailed led to the loss of my job ultimately, and a great deal of humiliation, regret, and shame. But in all of this, I offer no excuses, and I take full responsibility for the diversion because it happened under my leadership. I was not the PIC, but I was the manager, and that was my job. I didn't follow through on, I myself was not following through on making sure that I was following all policies and procedures, and I lacked good judgment and didn't follow best practices. And that is something that I know was just a loss of who I was, because I had been a pharmacist for many years before that and had not experienced that kind of lack of good judgment. Through all this, I have gained knowledge and insight throughout this journey that began from this life-shattering event, and has shown me how to turn this adversarial situation into a learning experience. In the period immediately following my loss of my job, it was extremely hard. I was unsure of what I was going to face from the Board of Pharmacy. Was I going to lose my license? Was I going to lose the job that I loved for so many years and not be able to practice anymore? It was extremely discouraging. To clear my mind and to get the focus off of myself, I did some humanitarian work with Samaritan's Purse, helping the fire victims in Redding, California. In this opportunity and through prayer, I regained my perspective, realized that I loved and dedicated my life to serving people, and the best way I did that was through being a pharmacist. So I reached out to my former employer at Sharp Reese Steely and went to the director of pharmacy and explained my situation. She was very encouraging, and with some effort, I was rehired as a per diem pharmacist in 2018, and they had full knowledge of the pending actions that were before me. I was welcomed back by my colleagues and the pharmacy staff members. When my probation was made final, I shared the information with the director of pharmacy, the administrative director, all the HR department, and everyone was aware. All the pharmacy managers all the staff pharmacists and support staff were made aware of what I was, of my accusations. And so I was very, I just gave them all that information and helped them to know that I wanted help in regaining their trust and the trust of all of those that I had failed, like the Board of Pharmacy, also Rady Children's Pharmacy. And I did apologize to them and to all of my colleagues for this lack of judgment. So, and I wanted to use this information to help others so they would not go through the same situation that I had gone through. And I felt very humbled having to share this information, but I was also supported greatly and received help by everyone. And I was very blessed by that at Sharp. The pharmacy managers also were very gracious in offering me their guidance and shared their own experiences with me. And examples of what I've learned by being a part of Sharp and through all the information that I CEs and everything that I have gone through on my probation. I've learned through them, especially specifically through Sharp, as some items of notice and that I have understood are C2 medications are only sent by the pharmacy manager, the PICs, and it's only through, they only have the CSOS ability. Pharmacists always sign for all the deliveries and check the invoices for controlled substances that are received at that time and make sure that they have been received and match the invoices before the delivery driver has left the building. All controlled substances are tracked through a perpetual inventory and updated with each dispensing. All controls are locked up in cabinets, or in most cases now, they have been upgraded to safes, and only the pharmacists have access to the cabinets or the safes. They're the only ones that can take the medication out of those. All employees are monitored during access to all the medications, and throughout the day we have good cameras and coverage that way. And we also review where personal items are kept, checking trash containers, and we have lockers at some sites and people put their personal belongings there, but those are checked also. And we make sure that any purchases or items that are checked, make sure there's receipts on them if they have in bags, or checking of any large items that are brought into the pharmacy that we weren't aware of. All invoice controls are consistently reconciled with dispensing data, and all invoices, regular invoices, are reviewed daily. We have a policy of not filling controlled substances unless they are 3 days before they are due to be refilled. And I have one manager specifically has let me assist them in the reconciliation process with controls, how to address any record or broken tablets or shortages. I have assisted also with her in audits and recording of controlled substances for out-of-date disposal. And every time we receive a medication, a prescriptions, written ones or ones that are sent for C2s, we go through, make sure there's no red flags and meet the requirements on the written prescriptions. Cures are checked on all controlled substances. Everyone is checked by Cures, and I put my name and date on those when I check them myself. For all controls, the MD must be within 10-mile radius to be able to fill the prescription. And also, especially recently, electronic scripts have been monitored for being from local MDs and not internet MDs, because there's been a lot of problems with that. The pharmacy director is very good about sending out updates from the Board of Pharmacy and our staff emails, so we stay updated. And I always check my own personal emails that are sent to me from the Board of Pharmacy. Even at our pharmacist meeting last night, we reviewed the policies and procedures for controlled substances and reviewed some policies of how to handle impaired employees who might be under influence of drugs or alcohol. Throughout the process, the director and the scheduler have always made sure that I have met my hours each month and have helped me throughout comply with all my probation regulations and have been very, very helpful. The director of pharmacy, her assistant, the pharmacy manager, Debbie, and pharmacists for quality control have all written those letters of recommendation and will attest to my rehabilitation and will support the restoration of my license. I'm grateful to be a pharmacist that is employed by Sharp Reese Steely. It's an outstanding, ethical, and supportive organization, and I'm very blessed to be there. I appreciate the guidance and information that I received from my board inspector, Dr. Trang Song, throughout my probation. She was very good at keeping me updated and knowledgeable and staying with to make sure I met all my requirements and what a tool the Board of Pharmacy website is for information, and also just knowledge from her was invaluable. I have been a member of CPHA and APHA now, and want to stay with them to stay current with actions and trends that are happening in pharmacy. I do volunteer work, volunteer at work events such as the Women's Conference and the AHA Heart Walk, so I can actively serve my community as a member of the pharmacy, as also continue to volunteer at church for outreaches into the community. My hope is to become more active in the committees on the Board of Pharmacy website, so I can be a contributing member of my profession. I always read the script, and I loved through to CE knowledge that I gained through I gained a great deal of knowledge from the Board of Pharmacy's presentation of the prescription drug abuse and diversion, what a pharmacist needs to know, and also through Pharmacy CE, like Pharmacy Law and Practice. Dr. Tony Park was very good at addressing a lot of issues in those. One of the reasons I went into request to terminate my probation and to restore my license status is out of consideration and gratitude to my employer, Sharp Reese Steely. They have been very supportive and gracious to me during my probation. I am grateful and honored the time spent by the Board of Pharmacy on my probation process. I respect your mission to protect, promote, and advocate for the health and safety of Californians by pursuing the highest quality of pharmacist care. I embrace the responsibilities of being a pharmacist and will continue to be a vital contributing member of my profession. I give you my assurance that I have fully been rehabilitated and will honor my profession by holding myself and my colleagues to the highest principles in our moral, ethical, and legal conduct. My passion and my purpose is to serve my patients with compassion, integrity, caring, and the best possible outcome for them. It is an honor and a privilege to be a pharmacist, and I humbly ask for your grace and consideration in my request. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Questions from our Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Jarvis?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Travato, your probation monitor told me that they believe that you trusted your pharmacy technician and did not believe that they would divert drugs, but that you've learned since then. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes.
Now, you'd been licensed since 1985, and the events here occurred in 2017 and 2018. Can you recall having done CEs prior to 2017 and 2018 about drug diversion?
Yes, I had done that due diligence, but unfortunately, I did not use that information appropriately when I was the manager.
And it sounds like you had been the pharmacy manager really not for that long. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What was the division of duties for you between being a pharmacy manager when there was also a PIC on site?
I was to do the ordering, do the management of the employees, do their time cards, do their scheduling. I also was often needed to fill in for pharmacists who didn't come to work. So I was a working manager, and I had to deal with a few issues with staff regarding not showing up, and it wasn't the one staff member, but others, and inventory control, checking of controlled substances and reviewing controlled substances, and invoices and for payments.
So would it be safe to say that this technician was a highly trusted member of your staff?
Yes.
Had they worked for this pharmacy for longer than you had, or had you hired them or been involved in the hiring process?
She was hired before I was hired.
And did you ever have any suspicions that she was either obviously stealing or being under the influence while at work?
No, I never experienced her acting in any other way. No.
Now, your probation, I think, is going to terminate in about 6 months or so. So why are those 6 months worth coming here and appearing before the board today?
As I mentioned previously, I really want to move forward in my profession and be an honorable member. And with a restricted license, even though not everyone might be aware of that, I'm aware of it. And I just feel that I don't honor my profession fully, or the workplace that has been so gracious to me by having that restricted license. But I also know that through that restriction, I have learned a great deal and respect the decision of the Board of Pharmacy for placing me under that probation. But they have done their job. They have rehabilitated me, and any further going on further would definitely, I would still reinforce what I already know. And I know their time is valuable also.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
All right, thank you. Questions from the board?
All right, Your Honor. Thank you. We'll start with Renee as well.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Travato, for all your information. So what will, just moving forward, so, again, thank you for all your information, but like what is the plan if you were to get your license reinstated fully? How would you, so you're currently per diem.
Yes.
What would be your plan, and at what level would you be? You would be a licensed pharmacist, but at what level do you anticipate wanting to operate at that after you're working again?
I really enjoy where I'm at. Even though I'm per diem, I do basically get a lot of hours. They respect my knowledge, and I have many opportunities to serve in different areas at the pharmacy. So I would just continue with my current employer. I don't have any other plans at this point to go anywhere else. And I respect that they are very honorable, and they are very up to date and keep me up to date as well on all current issues. And I just respect their ethics and want to stay with them because I believe I'm a better pharmacist by working with them, as well as doing my own due diligence to keep up to date.
And how many hours have you been working as per diem then? Sounds like almost full time?
Almost full time, yes.
So you would stay in a per diem position, or you would
if the opportunity came through them to get, which I have passed up a few because of my position, I have missed out on a few opportunities. If that was offered to me, I would accept with them because I trust them and know that I would get any kind of training that I needed for the position.
And does that include like a managerial type position again?
I know that my best is when I am dealing with patients and for patients. That is my strong. That's where my strength lies, and I really, really love dealing with the patients. So I know they're working managers there, and they do deal with the patients. But at this point, I think a staff position is just where I do my best work.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm finished.
Thank you.
Renee, then we'll go to Jesse.
Hello, thank you for appearing before us today. I know you did provide us some clarification on your roles as manager. What were the duties of the PIC who was working with you at the time?
The PIC was the director of pharmacy. So I'm not really sure because he did his duties upstairs. He was checking sometimes the schedules. He would check in periodically to see if everybody was doing what they should have done. He did not review when we ordered anything. I'm not sure if he reviewed invoices. He just took on that position because I was supposed to become the PIC, but that never occurred because the pharmacy was in a transitional state. They were becoming separate from the hospital.
Okay. So it sounds like you were the person, I know you said that you were the working manager. So would it be accurate to say that you were responsible for the compliance and the day-to-day in the pharmacy?
Yes.
Okay. And then I know you did provide us some information about what you've learned about processes working where you are now. Can you give us or walk us through the process of accepting controlled substance deliveries?
Yes. When the delivery driver comes in, we ask for the invoices. We go through them and review to see if there's any controlled substances on invoices that are within that packet. We find out which tote they're in because the driver is not aware of that. There's a little marking on the invoice where we can find that. We open up the totes at that time and make sure that all of the bottles and medication that are on the received invoices are matching what we received, and we check it off at that time and sign it off and make sure that it's all there. And then we sign the receipt for the driver once all of that is done. And then all of that is checked into our perpetual inventory at that time. So it's recorded in the books and then it's locked up.
Great. And I thought I read somewhere that it said a second pharmacist would verify the receipt of controls. Did I read that correctly? Or is it just one pharmacist who does the process of accepting deliveries and processing them?
Normally it's one pharmacist, but if two pharmacists are working, they can review it because there's not always a second pharmacist working with you. But if there is another one there, they can help. They will review and check it in too.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any further questions. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose?
Just, one question. I know that you mentioned you were following your heart, and maybe that sounds like it got you into some trouble there. But how has, your faith in church helped in your rehabilitation? Just out of curiosity.
It's been what kept me going. It's when I hit rock bottom, it was that faith that made me realize that this wasn't the end, and that I I had the strength to become who I really was, and that this action didn't define me, that wasn't who I was. And I had so many friends, and from there, and just time spent alone in prayer, that helped me get back to who I really was. And it was very important to me during this time, and it always is, every single day. It's God is my strength.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Nicole?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for your testimony today. I think Renee and Jesse caught a lot of my questions, but I just wanted to ask, it sounds like, you spoke about being very overwhelmed and not fully trained, and things like that in the situation. So when something like that happens that's slightly out of your control, how have you learned to advocate for yourself if you don't feel like you're properly trained or you have the right conditions or circumstances to do the right thing?
Ask questions. Never, I always felt that I was going, well, I didn't always feel. When was in that position, the director of pharmacy was very busy. And I would reach out to them periodically and would get quick answers. But honestly, I just felt after a while that I was bothering them. And so I tried to move forward as best I could. But in retrospect, always ask questions, get your questions answered, learn. Knowledge is a wonderful, wonderful tool. And it's something that's, there's knowledge out there to be gained. And you should never, never discount knowledge. And it only gets you into trouble if you muddle through without it. And it's something I will always have in my mind, that don't assume that I know everything. Always ask questions, get things clarified.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'm going to be abstaining from this decision, so I will pass it back to you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional questions, Ms. Jarvis?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
And I'd like to circle back to the petitioners. I don't think I did it in the previous hearing, but sometimes when you're asked questions, you think of things that you wanted to say and may have forgotten. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Mrs. Travato, that you have not already?
I've been doing this, being a pharmacist for 37 years. I love this. I love being a pharmacist. I love serving the community. And I just, and thank you for this opportunity and for your consideration, and ask for your grace and mercy in this decision. Thank you all for your time. I really, really appreciate it and respect all of you greatly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that said, the petition in this matter has concluded, and we are off the record, pending calling the next matter. And I don't know if we needed to take another short break or not, or if the next petitioner is available, but I'll leave that to the moderator or to the president.
Please raise your hand again if you need a break. Anyone? Just 5 of us today, just very small group, so.
As a warning, this one may be a little long, just FYI.
Okay, well then let's do another 10-minute break. We'll come back at 10:50.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Renee's back. I'll take a quick roll call and then we'll get it back to you, Your Honor. Renee?
Hi, licensee member Renee Barker, present.
Thank you. Jesse?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Jose.
Public member present.
Thank you, Nicole.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, and I'm here. Back to you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are back on the record and ready for our next item. So I'm calling it at this point. This matter is in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Farnaz Madavi. The Office of Administrative Hearings number for this matter is 2022-090-522. Case number is 6292. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. I'm Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I am appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role here is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you. And it appears we have Petitioner Madavi connected. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Were you on the line or connected when I gave the instructions to the prior petitioners?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And you understand those instructions?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me before we begin?
No.
Okay. Then let's proceed. Ms. Jarvis, you may begin with your presentation of background information.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this matter does have a significant procedural history, as there was an underlying accusation which resulted in probation, and then an accusation and a petition to revoke probation, which resulted in the probation being extended. So I will briefly go through the original accusation before providing most of the emphasis on the petition to revoke probation and then the current petition packet. So this matter first arose via an accusation filed on August 22nd, 2013 against Petitioner's Pharmacist license and GJPL Inc., doing business as St. Joseph Medical Plaza Pharmacy, of which Petitioner was the owner and the pharmacist in charge, or PIC. Most of the causes for discipline that I will discuss herein, I will just refer to Petitioner, meaning Petitioner Madavi, by and through her acts as owner and PIC of the pharmacy, which is not a petitioner here today. So for the underlying matter, Petitioner ended up entering into a stipulated settlement with the board, which placed both her personal and at that time her pharmacy license on probation for 5 years. That decision and order became effective on January 31st, 2014. So the first cause for discipline in that matter is that Petitioner failed to maintain records of acquisition and disposition of dangerous drugs. An investigation revealed that her pharmacy had trash bags full of prescription drug samples and drugs previously dispensed to patients by other pharmacies. Petitioner informed the board that these drugs came from doctors in the adjacent medical building or from patients who either no longer needed the meds or the meds had expired. Petitioner did not keep any records of these take-back drugs. The second cause for discipline was maintaining misbranded or unlabeled dangerous drugs, in that Petitioner kept those unlabeled and misbranded drugs in the pharmacy's regular drug stock. Sometimes the drugs were stored in bottles with no labels. Other times an unlabeled bottle might be attached by a rubber band to a manufacturer's labeled container. The third cause for discipline is failing to inventory controlled substances, in that Petitioner performed the DEA biennial inventory, but failed to include the controlled substances that were in liquid form or any anabolic steroids. The fourth cause for discipline was improper storage of controlled substances, in that those controlled substances were neither in a separate lockable area nor dispersed throughout her drug stock. Instead, considerable amounts of Schedule II controlled substances were found stored together in unsecured open baskets. The fifth cause for discipline was that Petitioner failed to have any policy or procedure for operating the pharmacy in the absence of the pharmacist. Petitioner was observed by a board inspector to have opened the pharmacy at 8:30 a.m. and then left her technician to continue performing technician services without supervision, while the Petitioner went and visited doctor's offices upstairs in an adjacent office building. Petitioner returned to the pharmacy at approximately 9:03 a.m., leaving that technician unattended for over a half an hour, 33 minutes. The sixth cause for discipline is that the same technician from the prior cause was observed signing for a drug delivery while Petitioner was away from the pharmacy. Records indicated that the technician had signed for at least 86 other dangerous drug deliveries from the same wholesaler. In aggravation, petitioner had been issued a prior citation for dispensing a new prescription to a patient with incorrect administration directions on the label. Where the prescription had stated to take 1 pill per day, petitioner issued a label stating to take 1 pill 4 times per day. So, as I said, petitioner was placed on probation in January of 2014, and then on January 23rd of 2019, just shy of the 5 years, an accusation and petition to revoke probation was filed against petitioner and her pharmacy. This accusation and petition to revoke included 15 causes for discipline. It is some relief to my throat that the petition to revoke probation is solely for failing to obey all laws as set forth in the accusation. So I'm only going to address the accusation portion. But please do note that because all of these actions took place while petitioner was on probation, they also consist of a violation of the probation terms. So there's another little twist here. And it's highly explained by the first and second causes for discipline. So there's 2 causes for discipline, the first and the second, in that petitioner compounded the commercially available product temazepam, and that the only justification for doing so was the financial hardship of the patient. Now, the reason that this is split into 2 causes for discipline is somewhat unusual, but on or about January 1st of 2017, the regulation that governed this conduct changed. So while in 2016, for the first cause for discipline, her conduct was a violation of California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1735, Subdivision C. Then on January 1st of 2017, for the second cause for discipline, it became instead, same conduct, a violation of the same California Code of Regulations, Title 16, but now Section 1735.2, Subdivision D3. So as the board members may recall, there was a massive regulation change at that time, and this same conduct, just 1 day apart, 1 day before January 1st, 1 day after, is a violation of a different code section. So a few times in here, I will note that there are 2 causes for discipline pursuant to the same exact violations. It's because of this change. Because the only way to really clearly articulate that in the accusation was to make them separate causes for discipline for the separate dates of service for the separate regulations. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask me during your question and answer period. And this conduct was done over the course of just less than 1 year, of August of 2016 through March of 2017, that petitioner was compounding temazepam. So the third cause for discipline was that the pharmacy failed to maintain the refrigerator storing medications to maintain the correct temperature for 27 out of 105 days. Petitioner recorded those temperatures and was unable to locate any policies or procedures relating to the storage of refrigerated drug products to provide to the board's inspector. Fourth, petitioner created or maintained an inaccurate record of sold or delivered controlled substances. So this one's a little bit confusing as well, but petitioner took a telephone prescription for morphine and dispensed it. Then 8 days later, the record of that prescription was changed to change the actual prescriber. So it appears that petitioner filled this prescription for a patient that was being discharged from the hospital. Both of the prescribers that ended up listed on this prescription were managing the patient. One prescriber called the prescription in, and then the other prescriber, according to that prescriber, later, quote, reissued the prescription because the original prescription form was misplaced. So on the prescription record, it shows that one prescriber called in the prescription, and then 8 days later, a different prescriber provided the actual prescription form. So the fifth cause for discipline was that the pharmacy regularly failed to report controlled substances prescriptions to cures within 7 days. Sixth, the pharmacy reported inaccurate information to cures for at least 7 prescriptions. Several of these reports failed to state any strength for the medication, including for ketamine, and then provided a quantity of 0, and yet was reported to cures. Seventh, petitioner dispensed a prescription calling for, and I might mutilate these names, but benzocaine 20%, lidocaine 8%, and tetracaine 6%, but actually dispensed a product that contained benzocaine 20%, lidocaine only 6%, and tetracaine only 4%. So it was supposed to be 8 and 6, and instead petitioner dispensed 6 and 4. So then 8th, on 3 occasions, petitioner dispensed a prescription for quinidine pursuant to a telephonic prescription, which was dated May 27th, 2016, which had no dosage strength identified. So the telephonic prescription just said quinidine, and petitioner dispensed that prescription and then refills 3 times without ever confirming the dosage strength. 9th, petitioner failed to initial at least 4 identified orally transmitted prescriptions that we could prove that she actually did take via telephone. 10th, the pharmacy compounded and dispensed a prescription for temazepam using a master formula that did not include instructions to tear the whey boat or to empty capsules. Both of those are essential compounding steps to ensure that the final product is accurate. 11th, the pharmacy failed to keep complete compounding records for at least 12 compounded prescriptions, including the quantity or amount compounded, the expiration date of the final compounded product, the identity of the pharmacy personnel who compounded the drug, or the identity of the pharmacist who reviewed the final product. 12th, petitioner compounded and dispensed dextromethorphan, ER 20 milligrams. Hopefully you know what that is if I completely butchered the pronunciation. The compounding records that show that no methocel E4M or lactose were used, which are required by the written master formula for this compounded product. So the compounding records show that they were not used, but the written master formula required them to be used. 13th, the petitioner compounded and dispensed quinidine 10 milligrams ER without a master formula. According to the compounding records, petitioner failed to use hydroxypropyl methylcellulose or lactose, as was required by the master formula for this compounded product. Now, 14th and 15th, so this is another regulation change. Some of the violations are under one regulation in 2016 and others under a different regulation in 2017. Petitioner failed to ensure that dispensed compounded drug products were properly prepared and labeled. So the compounding records reflect here that on at least 7 occasions, petitioner compounded quinidine or dextromethorphan, which were compounded improperly, such that there was as much as 10 times more active pharmaceutical ingredient as set forth on the label, So for example, just to give one prescription, on November 30th of 2016, petitioner compounded the dextromethorphan 20 milligram capsules, but the compounding logs indicate that petitioner used 18,900 milligrams of the dextromethorphan, and the final quality compounded was only 60 capsules. So that would mean that each capsule would contain approximately 315 milligrams of dextromethorphan, not the 20 milligrams as stated on the label. So petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board to settle this more recent accusation and petition to revoke probation, which required an additional 5 years of probation on her personal pharmacist license and for her to sell her pharmacy within 150 days. This decision and order became effective on September 26, 2019, and more than 2 years have passed since that date, and therefore petitioner is eligible to petition today for early termination of probation. Petitioner is and has been 100% compliant with probation, and she has paid her costs in full in the amount of $14,905.25. So with her petition, petitioner also provided the following documents: 4 letters of recommendation, all of which were verified. A pharmacist who states that he has known petitioner for 23 years and worked with her as a part-time pharmacist for 20 years, states that petitioner has taken accountability for her actions, has significantly improved, and follows the laws of the pharmacy profession diligently. Now, interestingly, if you're reviewing the packet, this author actually wrote 2 letters approximately a month and a half apart, and he states that the later one is an update, but they are essentially identical. A pharmacist who initially worked with and for Petitioner, but is now the PIC of the pharmacy under its new owners, states that Petitioner has substantially improved her skills and has become more organized while following the rules and regulations of the pharmacy's practices. A friend and chiropractor writes that she has known Petitioner for 38 years, and she has been their family pharmacist since she became licensed. This author writes that Petitioner is the best pharmacist the author has ever met, dependable, responsible, honest, courteous, and kind. Another writer characterized Petitioner as their mentor, who inspired them to continue their education in healthcare, and states that Petitioner is a superb pharmacist who provides excellent care to her patients. Petitioner also provide continuing education certificates for 102.25 hours for the last 2 years, and then 12 additional hours that were just more than 2 years old. Notably, Petitioner did not provide any personal statement, any reasoning or rationale or justifications for her actions, nor did she provide any statements of her rehabilitation efforts since being placed on probation. And hopefully she can go into that during her portion to talk today. So at this time, I'd like to move Exhibit 1, the petition packet consisting of the documents just identified and also including the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic recording, and a memorandum to the board for all purposes.
The document described by counsel has been marked as Exhibit 1 for identification and is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And at this time, I'd like to also move Exhibit 2, which is the underlying decision and order, which includes as attachments the original accusation and that stipulation, and then the petition to revoke probation.
The documents described by counsel have been marked as Exhibit 2 for identification, and Exhibit 2 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And at this time, I will cede the floor to Petitioner.
Thank you. So Petitioner Mahdavi, are you ready to present your testimony?
Yes.
Do you have any witnesses you intend to call?
No.
Okay, then I ask that you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Honor.
Okay, you may lower your right hand. And now that you are under oath, would you please state and spell both your first and last name for the record?
Yes. Last name, M like Mary, A like Apple, H like Harvey, D like David, A like Apple, V like Victory, I like India. First name, Farnaz, F like Frank, R like Robert, A like Apple, R like Robert, N like Nancy, A like Apple, Z like Zebra.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
I've prepared a statement. Would you allow me to read it?
I am fine with that. Are the members of the board fine with her reading a statement as her testimony? I see heads nodding and no objection, so I'm going to assume that is fine. You may proceed.
Thank you for your time and allowing me to petition for the early termination of my probation. I'm extremely embarrassed by my failure and I acknowledge my mistakes that led to this accusation. I've been a licensed pharmacist for over 32 years. Throughout my 32 years experience as a pharmacist, I have worked in many different settings. Hospital pharmacy as a staff pharmacist filling inpatient and outpatient prescriptions. After going through clinical training, I was monitoring blood levels and adjusting doses for many medications per physician request. Attending code blues and dosing all the emergency medications, supervising the sterile preparations, and finally became the hospital pharmacy director for a total of 1 year. Supervising inpatient and outpatient setting. After stepping down to staff pharmacist, I worked part-time in a hospital and community pharmacy setting. In November 1997, after 7 years of experience, I bought St. John's Medical Plaza Pharmacy. I was the PIC from 1997 till September of 2019, and owner until February of 2020 when I sold and transferred the pharmacy to the new owners. All these 22 years, I worked 6 to 7 days per week and very long shifts. As a proud and dedicated pharmacist, I always felt my job revolves around helping my community and make a difference in patient care by helping the patients and doctors.
Petitioner Mahdavi, I know this is difficult. I just want to remind you to take your time. If you need a short break to gather yourself, you can. We want to be sure that we can hear you loudly and clearly. So take the time that you need, take a breath, and if you need a couple of minutes, just tell us.
I can continue. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
The community and doctors had their trust in me filling the prescriptions, compound medications, and all the medication questions, and never matter how long the research would take, I would always get back to them with an answer. According to them, I was the to-go pharmacist for any question they had. Helping doctors and patients always brought me lots of joy and pride. I take full responsibility of my actions. I am very sorry for not following with some of the rules and regulations, also not catching up with the changes in law quick enough, and lost and failed the trust of State Board of Pharmacy that had in me. I have learned a lot through these accusations. To improve my organization, communication, leadership, and record keeping, I have taken many steps. In 2014 and 15, I read many articles and consulted with 2 different management coaches and learned how to stay current with rules and regulations. Number 2, besides checking the State Board of Pharmacy website for updates every month, reading the script anytime available, I hired License Protection Services by Jeb Sidico to assist me to stay current with new updates and laws and regulations, and assist me with updates and questions with the policy and procedures. Although I had several days, number 3, although I had several days of training with Gallipot and later with Fagron before start compounding, in 2017, I became a member of PCCA, which is Professional Compounding Centers of America. In 2018, I attended a 3-day compounding course in Sugar Land, Texas. Number 4, increase the hours of the second pharmacist from 6 to 8 hours per day. Number 5, hired a pharmacy consultant, Jenny Partridge, to advise me to become a better compounder. Number 6, did a 6-month construction and took away 300 square feet from the front end of the pharmacy and made a separate area for compounding, and also built hazardous clean room with negative pressure laminar hood for non-sterile compounding. Number 7, upgraded and changed the pharmacy software so the cures reports for compounding can be transmitted accurately and consistently. Number 8, purchased a digital thermometer with Wi-Fi and alerting ability connected to personal cell phone. Do you have any questions for me? Because I have more to present about my community service.
Yeah, we're going to let you provide us with your complete testimony, and then I'll turn it over to the Deputy Attorney General for questions, and then to the board members.
Okay, thank you.
And please remember, I know you're reading, but don't read too fast. We want to be sure we're getting your full testimony.
I'm sorry, I've really tried to not cry and present myself well. I'm sorry if I go quickly. Please ask me if I need to repeat anything, let me know.
Okay, and absolutely no need to apologize. We completely understand. I just wanted to remind you to make sure that you slow down a bit so we have your full testimony.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As a community service, I have offered free blood pressure monitoring and brown bag services for 2 hours per week for the past few years. During the time of COVID-19, because of social distancing, this service was stopped. But as soon as allowed, I reinstated the service again. I have always been a very strong advocate of helping the pharmacy patients and the community to dispose of expired and unused medications to prevent the misuse of medications by children and wrong people. Prior to COVID-19, and just after the first time I got into probation, until the COVID-19, for many years, I posted notices in the pharmacy with the information about the take-back drug centers. During the COVID-19, Santa Monica Police Department closed down the take-back unit. Also, many dates for the drug take-back medication events were canceled until further notice. I did a lot of research and I found these packets that called Dispose RX that they would mix with the medication and add a little water and shake it for 30 seconds, and after 10 minutes it would solidify. So I whomever would ask me about the drug disposal, because there was no centers available, I would hand them these packets for free and give them thorough instructions of how to destroy the medications and dispose of the medication safely. During COVID-19, I also volunteered to help as a Farsi English translator, since many Iranian patients were admitted to emergency rooms and hospitals and they couldn't be accompanied by a family member. Pharmacy patients, nurses, and doctors would call me through the speakerphone, and I would translate the patients' and doctors' concerns for them. Lastly, I hope you have the confidence in me to approve my early termination of the probation, because financially I need to work more hours per week to support my family. Although the new pharmacy owner, PIC, staff, and patients are very happy with my performance as a pharmacist, but since 2020, because of my failure, I stopped working as a compounding pharmacist. Therefore, they can only offer me 2 days of work. During the past 2 years, I have applied to many pharmacist positions, but but I haven't been successful to get hired. Even with the vaccination situation where they wanted to hire many pharmacists, and I couldn't get a position. I think chains and community pharmacy owners are hesitant to hire a pharmacist on probation since the PBMs may cancel their insurance contract. Again, I want to emphasize I take full responsibility of my mistakes. I am extremely sorry, embarrassed, and acknowledge my failure that led to this accusation, and learned a lot from it. I'm done.
It's been quite a morning. The gardeners are outside, so I'm hearing bits and pieces. But Ms. Jarvis?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So it sounds like you want to be released from probation early in order to work more. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And you said, I think just now, that one of the reasons that you're only working 2 days per week is that you're not doing compounding anymore. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if you were to do compounding, would you have more days of work per week?
I have no intentions of doing compounding now, and I don't think it's, and I just turned 60 years old. I really do not want to do compounding anymore. I think I am a better staff pharmacist, dealing with issues, the patients, doctors love to research, and I love helping people. I don't think I want to do compounding anymore.
So even if the board were to release you from probation early, you would not start compounding again?
No, not for now. I don't know what the future is going to bring for me, but not for now. I have no intentions of being a compounding pharmacist.
And then you said that you've applied to other jobs, but you've been able to find one. How many jobs can you estimate have you applied to?
About 7 or 8.
If you were to be released from probation, would you plan to become an owner of a pharmacy again?
I have no intent. As I told you, I just celebrated my 60th birthday. And at this point, I have no intentions of becoming a PIC or owner of a pharmacy.
Well, that was my next question. So I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I will turn it over to the board for questions.
Start with the same order, Renee.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. Is it Dr. Madavi? Miss Madavi? Not sure.
I
Anyway.
have a PharmD degree.
Okay, so Dr. Madavi, yes, thank you for clarifying. So I did want to, I know you're, wanting to, so it sounds like if you were to be released, you want to just be able to work more as a staff pharmacist. And then, and what would be that setting then?
I haven't worked in a hospitals for many, many years. I've reached out to some people that I know, but I think my only choice at this point, if I get hired, would be a staff pharmacist in a community pharmacy.
Okay. And then, so where you're currently working, I mean, you mentioned about, so that you don't anticipate that you would work in compounding, but like where you're working, you said they created like more of a compounding area. Is that where you would continue working?
This is the pharmacy that I own. I still work in the pharmacy that I owned for over 22 years. I actually did the construction, made it beautiful. They allowed me to make a big hole in the high-rise building to vent it's a negative pressure room to vent to outside. It's a great facility, but I'm not doing compounding.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Jesse?
Hi, Dr. Madavi. Thank you so much for coming today. And, it's a difficult thing to come before the board. So I first want to let you know that you're doing great. And I appreciate you giving us more insight. I guess the only question I really have is, what changes have occurred that would give the board confidence that you can practice without being a threat to the public?
The steps that I mentioned to you that I went through was to do better and bring up the pharmacy to the level that has to be. Majority of these problems were not catching up with the law quick enough. I love pharmacy and I love being a pharmacist, and I believe I am a great pharmacist. I actually help a lot of people. I've helped many patients, many doctors. I do research, but I think I am a better staff pharmacist than it was very overwhelming. It was a very busy pharmacy. I have learned how to stay up with the law and regulations, and I guess I wasn't very clear, but I took many steps in my time. I've sold the pharmacy over 2.5 years. In my time, and they're still following it, I placed many situations, many orders, like I became part of the PCCA, hired Jeff Sedisco for the policy and procedures to help me and stay up with the current laws and regulations. I did a lot of that. And I read a lot. I do a lot of, for the past 4 or 5 years, I've done at least 2 to 3 times more continuing education, more than it was required for the pharmacists.
Great.
I hope
I don't have any further questions. Good luck, and give yourself some credit. I know this is hard, but you've done a lot of good work and a lot of renovations on that pharmacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose?
No questions for me at this time.
Thank you, Jose. Nicole?
Thank you so much for your testimony, Dr. Madavi. I do not have any questions at this time.
Thank you, Nicole. I myself, just for clarification, Dr. Madavi, you are working at your previous pharmacy. You were owner that you went under probation for, but you sold it, but you're still working there.
Yes, that's the only place I've worked since my probation.
And the owners of the pharmacy are understanding and accommodating to your probationary needs.
Yes,
Okay, and how many about hours do you work there?
I work 2 days a week, between 16 to 20 hours a week.
Okay, and are you not able to work more because it's too much financial strain on the owners? Or
No, every day is 2 pharmacists, and one of them has to be a compounding pharmacist. So, the, so the only 2 days that, yes, it is financial reasons because they need only 16 hours of pharmacists per day, and they don't have any other days to offer to me that doesn't revolve the compounding area.
okay, but you have no interest though, even if your probation were to be lifted, going into more compounding work, right? So is that kind of why you're seeking this early termination?
I actually have a very strong clinical background, and I have taken a lot of courses and a lot of continuing education for compounding. Compounding is very fascinating to me, but I failed. And at this point, I have absolutely no intentions of becoming an owner, PIC, and a compounder. I don't know what the future is going to bring to me. I mean, somebody may contact me in a year or two. I don't know. I'm 60 years old. I don't know if I am going to want to be working so hard again, 10, 12 hours a day. I can't do that anymore.
And so even if your probation were to be terminated early, you are planning on staying at your St. John's Plaza pharmacy.
I want to stay there because I have a very big history, long history, patients. I mean, a lot of people come there only because I'm there on those days, and for only 2 days. But I like to do other work. I like to apply for other jobs for another 2 days. I don't want to work in one place full time, but I like to get to vaccinations. I like to do other to work at another pharmacy. But at my pharmacy, I'm not going to be working more than 2 days. I don't think so, unless somebody goes on vacation or something emergency comes up.
So I noticed that you provided some documentation about your free blood pressure monitoring service, as well as brown bag. Is that one of your main initiatives that you participated at this pharmacy?
Actually, I started it after the first probation as a community service about 8 years ago.
Okay. And have you been continuing on?
All the time, except for COVID, because of social distancing, we couldn't do it.
Okay. Are you planning on bringing this back service?
I have.
Yeah, okay.
On my days, on Wednesdays, I do blood pressure monitoring and brown bag services from 2 to 4 every week.
Okay. Is the pharmacy that you work at is that more of a compounding pharmacy, or is that a independent pharmacy that deals with regular prescriptions as well? What kind of practice setting is it?
Okay, it's a community pharmacy, and compounding is probably we do like 15 compounds a day, not more, but we fill about 275 to 300 prescriptions a day.
Okay. Okay. I have just giving you opportunity if you have anything you want to say about your additional rehabilitation evidence you want to share with us. I just want to remind you to share with us. And I don't have any further questions.
Again, I just want to say I am very sorry, apologetic, and embarrassed, and I guess I got very much overwhelmed, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you. And just to be clear, any additional questions, Ms. Jarvis?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, and if there are no questions from any other members of the board, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. And the case is submitted and the record is closed. We're off the record and ready to proceed to the next petition whenever ready. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mandavi.
Hi, Your Honor. Unfortunately, the timing is a little bit awkward because I don't think we're going to get through the next petitioner. So if the members are agreeable, we'll be back at, we'll take a lunch and we'll be back at 1, if that's okay, 1 p.m. We'll take a little bit of an extended lunch.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. We'll see you all back at 1 o'clock. Enjoy your lunch.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, Jose is back. Okay, I think we're all ready to roll back. So I'll take a roll call really quick, and then I see moderator also, I believe, Herb Weinberg is an attorney for the respondent. So if you could promote him as well. Sure. And take a really quick roll call. Renee?
Hello, licensee member Renee Barker present.
Hi, Renee. Jesse?
Licensee member present.
Hi, Jesse. Jose?
Public member present.
Thank you. Nicole?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'm here. Your Honor, back to you.
All right, so we are back on the record and ready to hear our next item. And so I'm going to call that item right now. And Petitioner Al-Badawi, I want to be sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So can you turn your camera on so we can hear and see you? Or I see your counsel's there. Your Mr. Weinberg, your microphone is muted.
There you go. Can you hear me now, Your Honor?
I can hear you.
Okay. And Mr. Al-Badawi is sitting to my left, which is, and he is present as well. And we're going to be using the same computer.
Okay, excellent. I see him, and good afternoon to both of you. So I'm calling the matter, this is in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Petitioner Adel Y. Al-Badawi. The Office of Administrative Hearings number for this matter is 2022-090-431. The case number for this matter is 6214. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I'm appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And counsel, if you could state your appearance and your client's presence.
Yes, I'm Herbert Weinberg of the Fenton Law Group, and Mr. Adel Al-Badawi is present here with me.
Excellent, thank you. So considering that you are represented, I will avoid the formalities, and counsel, you may begin with your presentation of background and information.
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter arose via an accusation filed on February 2nd of 2018 against Petitioner's Pharmacist license and NADS RX Pharmacy doing business as Arlington Prescription Pharmacy, of which Petitioner was the president and the pharmacist in charge, or PIC. Most of the causes for discipline that I will discuss herein, I will just refer to Petitioner, meaning Petitioner Al-Badawi by and through his acts as the president and the PIC of the pharmacy. That pharmacy is not a petitioner here today. Petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board to surrender his personal license, which became effective on January 23rd, 2019. 3 years have passed, and therefore Petitioner is eligible to petition for reinstatement. There were 5 causes for discipline based on the review of Petitioner's dispensing practices and an inspection conducted in November of 2016. First, Petitioner dispensed controlled substances prescriptions that were on prescription forms that were not compliant with pharmacy law. Specifically, for 6 alleged prescribers, there were a total of 45 prescription forms 28 from one prescriber, which lacked some or all of the following: a lot number, a batch number, a California Security prescription watermark, a latent repetitive, quote, void watermark, an identifying number assigned to the security form printer, 6 quantity check-off boxes, and a statement that the prescription is void if the number of drugs prescribed is not noted. The second cause for discipline was that petitioner failed to report losses of controlled substances to the board. On or about May 26, 2014, and November 29, 2014, petitioner suffered thefts of controlled substances in which 20,949 units of controlled substances were stolen. Petitioner failed to report those losses to the board until the November of 2016 inspection. Third, petitioner failed to comply with corresponding responsibility in that petitioner filled 1,492 prescriptions for 6 prescribers where there were significant red flags to suggest that they were medically illegitimate, including being purchased with cash, were for the highest available strength, misspelled Phenergan with codeine. Patients and prescribers were located well outside the pharmacy's normal geographical prescription area, and the prescriptions were for controlled substances, including several commonly abused substances. Fourth, gross negligence for petitioner's actions as set forth in the prior causes for discipline. And then fifth, unprofessional conduct for failing to exercise his professional responsibility, education, training, or experience for, again, the actions set forth above. Now, in the stipulation, petitioner agreed to pay the investigation and enforcement costs of $15,623 prior to the issuance of a new or reinstated license. To date, no costs have been paid. With his petition, petitioner provided the following documents: a statement that petitioner regrets the failure of his duty to be a gatekeeper for controlled substances, his desire to make amends, to start over, and to become a valuable member of the healthcare community again. Petitioner also became a pharmacist on July 28th of 1977 at the age of 25. Petitioner provided 5 letters of recommendation, all of which were verified. The first was a non-licensee who does not state that he is a patient. I can't easily give him a title, but he wrote 2 letters, one in 2021 and one in 2022. They are close to identical, and this individual states that he has known petitioner for 10 years, and petitioner is a fine man and human, a true humanitarian who loves to help others, and deserves a second chance. A pharmacist writes that he has known petitioner for more than 10 years and has been a pharmacist himself for over 20 years. This pharmacist states that petitioner helped and guided him in opening his own independent pharmacy, that petitioner works very hard and exemplifies integrity. This author also wrote 2 letters in 2021 and 2022, and they're essentially identical. A friend writes in support of petitioner that petitioner has been their family friend and mentor for over 30 years. This author credits petitioner for much of his success in life and states that petitioner has a great character and integrity. Another pharmacist writes that they have known petitioner for over 4 years and that he is the, quote, go-to person whenever they have a pharmacy question. This author states that petitioner is skilled, talented, and ethical, and similarly wrote 2 letters, 2021 and 22, that are essentially identical. Finally, a pharmacy technician states that he has known petitioner for over 25 years, that he is kind and professional, an amazing pharmacist, and has character, professionalism, and both comforts and connects with his patients. Petitioner provided continuing ed certificates for 130.75 hours from January of 2020 through June of 2022. So Exhibit 1 is the petition packet consisting of the documents identified, including the notice of hearing, the agreement for electronic recording, and a memorandum to the board. And I would ask that Exhibit 1 be admitted for all purposes.
The document described by counsel has been marked as Exhibit 1 and is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then Exhibit 2 is the underlying decision and order in this matter, which includes the underlying accusation as well, and I ask that it be admitted as Exhibit 2.
Okay, that document has been marked as Exhibit 2 and is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then at this time, I will cede the floor to petitioner.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Weinberg, now is your opportunity to present any evidence that you have. Do you intend to call any witnesses other than the petitioner?
No, Your Honor.
Are you ready to call the petitioner at this time?
Yes.
Or would you like to make a brief opening or something else?
Just a point of order. The petition itself, I take it, is already submitted.
That is correct.
Okay, so
It's part of Exhibit 1.
Right, I need not do that. No, we'll waive an opening statement. I'd like maybe to make a brief closing statement, but I'd like to call the petitioner.
Okay. Mr. Al-Badawi, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please lower your hand, and now that you're under oath, please state and spell both your first and last name for the record.
Sure. Adele, A-D-E-L. Last name Al-Badawi, A-L. B like boy, A. D like David, A-W-I.
Thank you. You may proceed when ready, counsel.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Al-Badawi, the first cause for discipline, as stated by Deputy Attorney General Jarvis, was for filling prescriptions that were non-compliant as controlled substance secured forms. Ms. Jarvis also mentioned that there were 1,490 prescriptions for controlled substance filled, and the board's record shows that 45 of them were non-compliant. First of all, when you filled these prescriptions, all of them, did you review these prescriptions, these controlled substance prescriptions, to determine that they were on secured forms?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do that for each and every prescription, controlled substance prescription that you filled?
Yes.
Yes. And how is it, as you sit here today, that if the facts in the first cause for discipline are true, that you somehow missed the fact that these 45 prescriptions were somehow non-compliant?
There's so many different forms, and I failed on my part to find, to determine the exact prescription form that the prescription was supposed to be on.
As you sit here today, and assuming that that your license is reinstated, have you learned now how correctly to identify the secured forms?
Yeah, I looked up the board regulations, and I understand the parameters that are supposed to be on each and every prescription and how to identify them.
All right, thank you. The second cause for discipline states that you failed to report burglary losses to the Board of Pharmacy. Did you report the burglary losses at all?
I reported all the burglary losses to the department, the DEA. I called them for the form, and I went to the website, I printed it, I completed it, and I mailed it to the DEA. I had no idea I had to report it also to the Board of Pharmacy.
Okay, you've asked my second question before I could ask it.
Okay.
So, all right. So you reported the loss of the two burglaries. There were two burglaries, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, you reported the loss incurred from the two burglaries to the DEA, and you failed to report the loss to the Board of Pharmacy because you were unaware that it was required?
I was unaware I was required to be reported to the Board of Pharmacy.
I see. Let me go back just a little bit. You received your Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the University of Southern California.
Correct.
As did I. And that was in 1977.
Correct.
What was your work experience right after that? Can you go through it briefly?
Yeah, after I graduated, passed the board, got hired by a supervisor at thrifty drugstores. He found out I passed. He hired me the next morning, and I went to work for thrifty drugstores for about 18 years.
Okay, were you a staff pharmacist?
I was a staff pharmacist. They didn't have a pharmacy in charge titles or anything at the time.
I see. And in your 18 years at Thrifty, which I guess today is Rite Aid.
Rite Aid,
Okay.
correct.
Was there any special training or any special requirements with regard to treating controlled substance prescriptions, let's just say differently from non-controlled substance prescriptions?
I was hired and I was sent to a store. Back then, there was nothing, taught me how the system worked. We had a typewriter with a roll of labels, and you have a license and you went to work. You filled every prescription you received.
And was there a different criteria for filling the controlled substance prescriptions than filling non-controlled substance?
None at the time.
Okay. And after the 18 years, you bought your first pharmacy, is that correct?
Correct.
And where was that located?
In Sherman Oaks.
Okay. And how long did you have the pharmacy in Sherman Oaks?
I had it for like 12 and a half years until I lost my lease.
Your lease, I see. And did you move that pharmacy?
No. Closed it down, sold my records to the pharmacy across the street.
I see. And how long after that did you open up your second pharmacy?
9-10 months after that.
Okay. Did any of your patients at that pharmacy follow you to the new pharmacy?
Yes, plenty.
Okay. And did any of these patients that followed you to the new pharmacy, which was located in Riverside, which is a considerable distance from Sherman Oaks, did any of them fill prescriptions with you for controlled substances?
Yes.
All right. Had they been getting controlled substance prescriptions filled at the Sherman Oaks store?
Yes.
Okay. And how many would you say, if you could guesstimate, of those patients followed you, of those controlled substance patients followed you to the Riverside store?
Between 7 and 9 patients.
I see. Okay. And they continue to get controlled substance prescriptions at the Riverside store?
I am so sorry, Your Honor, and I'm so sorry, Counsel. Just wanted to notate, I believe our member Kula has joined. Kula, were you able to participate for the whole beginning of the discussion for this petitioner?
You know, I got here about 5 minutes ago. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Just if you could reflect it for the record. I apologize. Go ahead, Mr. Weinberger.
Yes, surely. And the accusation expressed the board's concern about the distance traveled by patients to the pharmacy, and also the distance that physicians were located from the pharmacy. Can you comment on how it came to be that physicians so far away from the pharmacy were referring prescriptions to the pharmacy?
Well, some physicians were having trouble with their patients getting medication, and they, since I took care of some of the patients, I was asked to take care of a few other patients, and I did.
Okay, so, and these are physicians that already had
patients
before at your pharmacy?
Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you. Now, over the period of the 3 years, the 3-year period of the audit between November 2013 and November 2016, the board's inspection reports and so on indicated that 133,000 prescriptions in total had been filled during that 3-year period. When we were talking earlier, you mentioned to me that you thought it was slightly less than 1,300. I see that Deputy Attorney General Jarvis has mentioned a number of 1,490. Does that sound approximately right as the number of prescriptions a number of controlled substance prescriptions that you filled?
And I'm sorry, before you answer that question, I want to be sure we still have Ms. Jarvis. I see her on the panelist list, but I don't see her on camera, so I want to be sure we didn't lose her. It could just be my computer layout.
Everything appears okay to me. Can you hear me?
I can hear and see you now. For a moment I didn't, and someone else's name appeared there, so I figured better safe than sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Honor.
This is the moderator. I had to switch to active speaker because WebEx's limitations only lets me put 8 people on the screen, and we have 9. So Ms. Jarvis, when she speaks, she'll show up on screen.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
Surely, thank you. And what were the days? How many days a week was the pharmacy open?
5.
Okay, so that would be approximately 365, 100, about 260 days a year. Times 3 years is 780 days. So do you agree that in that 780-day period, approximately 1,490 controlled substances were filled?
Yes.
And that would come to slightly less than 2 a day. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. When you were you were the only pharmacist working at your pharmacy, is that correct?
Yes.
So you processed all the prescriptions yourself?
Yes.
Okay. When you were processing the prescriptions, was it customary based upon your software program for the pharmacy to suggest a selling price for each prescription as it came up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. And with regard, I'm only interested in the controlled substance prescriptions at this point. With regard to the controlled substance prescriptions, did you charge that suggested price?
No.
Okay. Did you charge more than the price?
No.
Did you charge less than the price?
Much less than the price.
And why did you do that?
Because the computer in general, or the program, the software we had overpriced all controlled substances to flag them out. And we priced controlled substances not off of whatever the retail computer tells you. You took the cost of the medication and then you priced it.
I see. So you weren't charging a high price for these prescriptions?
No.
Okay. What steps did you take to verify the prescriber's status, if any? What steps did you take to verify the provider's status?
Well, I usually when a controlled substance came in, we always verified the prescription with the prescriber, but at the same time verified the prescriber through Breeze and checked for licensing, checked for anything that comes up that shows there's something wrong with the prescription or the physician that's ordering the medication.
And with all of these prescribers, and I think there were half a dozen of them, I think, that are really involved in this. Did you check to see if they had any credentialing in pain management?
Most did.
Okay. And what steps did you take? Did you call the prescriber's office to verify that these? Let me finish. Did you call the prescriber's office to verify that these patients were indeed, that these prescriptions were from them and for these patients?
Yes, on each and every one.
Okay. What other steps did you take to determine that the prescriptions were legitimate?
Calling the prescriber, verifying the prescription and the medication, checking cures, to see patient history.
So I'm assuming that the members of the board are familiar with cures, but just for the court's benefit, if you can describe what cures is.
You know, whenever all controlled substance prescriptions, once a week, they need to be reported to a database that would list the patient by name, by birthday, by address, and what medication controlled substances they receive, no matter where they receive them, because every pharmacy is supposed to report them. And I think the regulation even had changed now. It's supposed to be reported daily rather than weekly at the time.
And what were you looking for in cure when you looked at the cures?
For abuse, for multiple locations where a patient might get prescription at one pharmacy or another in a same period of time.
Did you look to see if the patient was using several doctors to get controlled substances?
Yeah, cures will tell you that, which shows that.
And if you saw that they were, did you take any special steps?
I usually rejected the prescription or, get in contact with the prescriber, why the prescription was issued when it was issued by another pharmacy.
How do you know that the person that was bringing in the prescription was the person that the drug was prescribed for?
Every narcotic prescription, you have to produce an ID, usually a driver's license, to verify identity and address.
As part of your package that you submitted, with your petition, you submitted certificates of attendance at various continuing education programs.
Yes.
Was there any specific subject that you was there a specific subject to much of what you were getting continuing education on?
Yes, I tried to take courses and get some more education about narcotics and dispensing and regulations.
Yeah, I see them. Okay. Are you familiar with, well, you're probably not familiar with it. Let me quote something to you, and let me ask you if you're familiar with this. It's Business and Professions Code 733, which says, in essence, that a pharmacist may not obstruct a patient from obtaining a validly ordered prescription, and to do so will subject that pharmacist to discipline by his or her licensing agency. Are you familiar with that type of requirement?
I'm aware of it, but I'm not aware of the number.
Okay, but you were aware that you're required to fill a prescription if it's valid?
Correct.
Okay, unless there's some kind of a religious objection or something of that nature.
That is right.
Okay. When you filled these controlled substance prescriptions, did you believe at that time that they were valid?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what, if anything, have you learned that's different from what you thought you knew since your license was revoked?
I learned a lot of the rules and the regulation. I take responsibility for what I did and my failures in trying to be the best I can be. And I have kind of educated myself a little bit more to the new regulations of the board and pharmacy and practice. And I take responsibility for what I did. I can't erase the past. I have to live with it and try to be better than what I was and go forward and make a difference.
If you were to have your license reinstated, in what type of practice would you wish to participate?
Not retail. I would love to, I'm good at it. I would love to go into clinical and like hospital, home infusion, antibiotic medication, stuff like that.
Is there anything else that you would like to address to the panel before?
All what I'd like to say is I take full responsibility for my past failures, And I do hope that the board can consider me giving me my license back, and I can still offer a lot of service to the community and make a full circle correction of my past, and let the future speak for itself, and my good deeds will speak for themselves for the future.
Thank you, Adel.
Thank you.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Jarvis?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So let me ask you just a couple of questions about your last few answers to Mr. Weinberg there. So you mentioned that you don't want to go back into retail. So would it follow then that would you plan to ever own a pharmacy again?
No. I have no desire to own another pharmacy again. Not at my age, no.
And what about to be like a pharmacist in charge for any pharmacy?
If it's something to do with a clinical or a home infusion, where it doesn't involve retail, I would do that. But it has to be like a home infusion type setting where it doesn't involve pain management or anything of the sort.
Now, when you say clinical or home infusion, do you have ideas of like jobs that you've seen online or anywhere else that you are interested in, or is that more of like a general idea that you're just hoping to get into?
I'm interested in like home infusion setting, like option care, and where pharmacies take care of patients, patient release from hospital on an antibiotic infusion, and where you have to take care or patients who are in need of TPN solutions and stuff like that, feeding solutions. And I mean, I can do that, and I would love to do that. And that's what I'm gonna be looking for and try to find, or even a hospital setting. But anything in retail, I have no interest in going back to.
Well, forgive me for this question, but you did mention that at your age, you've been licensed as a pharmacist for longer than I've actually been alive. So why are you asking to be reinstated here instead of maybe retiring?
Well, you know, truthfully and honestly, I've been retired, not retired, I mean, since I lost my license, it's been now almost 4 years, and I'm bored to death. And I still can do what I do. I'm good at what I do, and I still have the knowledge. I haven't lost it. I'm not senile. I can do it. I can help. I can enjoy it, and I'd like to do it. And I don't want to leave this earth without my license.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board?
All right, Your Honor, I will start with Renee. Renee, go ahead.
Hello, this is Renee. Is it Mr. Abadari, Doctor? Okay. Thank you for all of your testimony. So I did have I guess a question, wondering, I mean, I know I can probably understand why you would not want to return to retail after, having a lifetime experience, and then with having, this end result that you've been on probation. But I'm just wondering, you want to really change careers here. I mean, pharmacies, as you know, a very complex profession. And so the complexities of retail are kind of have their own, but as well as in a hospital setting, or especially in a compounding setting, like in home infusion. So I'm just curious how you would step into that. I'm not remembering all of your CE that you did, but Just wondering if you are preparing or prepared to prepare yourself for a whole host of other regulations and requirements. That would be my question.
Yes, I started, by taking the sterile compounding course. I've been doing a lot of reading and taking some courses online. I'm not completely done with them, and trying to get certified for sterile compounding and literature into this stuff, and reading how to or studying how to manage clinically patients on antibiotics, learning how to read blood results, blood test results, and trying to adjust doses. And I took a couple of courses in preparation of TPNs, and know how to take a patient orders from the physician and prepare a TPN solutions for them, maintain it, and do weekly, the blood work and justify the adjustments of the elements in the TPN solutions. I'm preparing myself. I'm hoping to get to find a job. It's not easy at my age, but I can't try until I have my license. And so, it's all up in the air.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it sounds like you're definitely preparing yourself for that direction. So thanks for your thorough response. I appreciate it.
Yes, I'm preparing myself, and hopefully somebody will take a chance on a 70-year-old.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renee. Jesse?
Thank you. I had a similar question, and just going off of what Renee was saying before, I guess, what have you done so far to prepare yourself for an entirely new set of legal and policy requirements that are completely different from the retail setting?
Well, just like everything else, it's you need to learn and explore and familiarize yourself with all the rules and regulation, and maybe this time be more specifically ready and have all the regulations in front of you, and learn it, be aware of it, and be mentored into doing what's necessary to do. And I know it's going to take time, but none of it is going to happen until I get my license.
Great. I wish you a lot of luck. I love to see someone who has spent their lives in pharmacy and clearly still loves it and is still learning new things. So I'm inspired by you in that way, and I appreciate you coming before us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
No questions at this time. I had a similar question that was already answered.
Thank you, Jose. Nicole?
Hey, no questions, already been covered. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I have a few questions for you, Dr. Al-Badawi. So I think that the Deputy Attorney General asked you primary reason. It seems like you actually are a licensed real estate agent as well. Did you?
Well, yes. Yes, during that period, I got my, you have too much time on your hands, so I got my real estate license, and I even got, I also became a certified financial advisor for automobile dealerships. And I got my certification for that out of a school in Arizona. And have a lot of hobbies, carpentry hobbies, and that's what I did.
So it sounds like this is not really a financial reason. It seems like you're just trying to really come back to the profession of pharmacy you started your life with and your career. Is that correct assessment?
No, because real estate is very hard to crack. I had it and I took my license and I started with it. But to try to build a career with real estate will take you about 5 years or so before you're really making any sustainable income out of it.
Okay.
And then I got certified with financial advisor, and every time I applied for a job, they all look at me and say, "You're a pharmacist. What the heck you doing? Want to come and work for cars? Be financial advisor for cars?" And they look at my age, and nobody wants to do it. They want some young guy trying to do it. But it's an investment I made into myself. Learned something new, and I will keep at it.
Okay, so thank you for being honest. So you are part of the reason is also to for financial reasons. Would
Yes.
you yes, okay. And so the part that I want to confirm is some layers to my question, and bear with me here. First layer is, as I can see from your petition, the original fine is not paid. That is correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. If you are granted this petition, most likely you will be serving some years of probation and possibly having to take the exam. And most likely that's going to be the case. Would you be, one, okay to be on probation, which, as you probably know, that requires quite a bit of tremendous amount of work. I hope you saw other petitioners that came today that are here just to get early termination of their probation. So are you confident? And I'm saying this not in a negative way. As you alluded to it, you are, it's a quite a journey, right? So how do you feel about probation, exam, and also the fine that is still not paid?
I mean, the fine, I'm not aware of the fine. I was not aware of the fine, but if that's if I need to pay it, I will find a way to pay it. But I'm not aware of, I'm not expecting to be on probation or take a board exam again.
If that were the requirement, would you even try to get your license back at this point, Dr. Al-Badawi?
I want my license back, and I will pay the fine.
But no exam nor probation. You don't feel that you can handle those requirements.
I don't feel, I wasn't expecting to take an exam after all these years. And I don't see how or why would I be on probation. It's been 4 years since my license was surrendered. And I'm speechless. I don't know how to answer it.
Yeah, I understand. It's that's a lot of details, right? So I understand. But okay, that does answer my question. And before I just want to make sure Eileen, our counsel, just want to make sure Kula, I don't know at what point you joined, but I'm not sure if she's able to ask a question or if she's going to skip this one. Just want to make sure.
President, this is Eileen Smiley. Since Member Koenig joined after the petition started, then she shouldn't ask questions and she should not participate.
Okay, so,
As
all righty.
participating in this one. I think she came on about 10 minutes after the petition started.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. All righty, so I will take this back to you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Weinberg, any additional questions you would like to ask your client at this time?
No, Your Honor, but I would like to just get a point of information here and before I just close.
Go ahead.
All right, I practiced pharmacy. We're talking about old age. St. Patrick's Day, I'll be 90, so all of you are mere children to me. However, I have been doing this for a lot of years, over 40 years in dealing with the Board of Pharmacy. I've never, at any one of these petitions for a reinstatement of license, seen a party reinstated on probation. It's a first to me. I wasn't even aware that that's a possibility. My understanding was you get your license back, you're newborn. I understand that the fee has to be paid for because when your license is revoked, it states plainly in the agreement that in order that the payment, it's not really a fine, that the payment of costs is it must be made if you're reinstated, and that I understand. But probation, I did not understand. And so I'm taken aback by that. And with regard to the license exam, are we talking about a full license exam as if you had just graduated pharmacy school? Are we talking about a law exam? Are we talking about a multiple choice exam? What specifically are we talking about? So that's the information that I hope to get from the board.
Okay, I'm not sure if your question is directed to me or the board president. I will state, just for reference, at least as an administrative law judge, we look at the Board of Pharmacy disciplinary guidelines, which will specify certain conditions in which licenses may be reinstated. Those guidelines should be available on the website. I just tried to pull them up while you were talking, but of course, with dual authentication, it sent a number to my phone, which is in the other room for me to access it, but I'm sure you can pull it up. But the guidelines should specify what the various terms are for reinstatement. I believe there's model terms, recommended terms based on discipline, and things of that nature. So that's what I would add if you don't have that information already. And if President O wants to add anything, or Ms. Jarvis, please feel free.
I don't think I'm going to say anything further at this point, just because the cases are decided on a case-by-case basis. So there's always an opportunity to change, but I'm speaking in very general sense for all the past reinstatement cases. I can tell you that we've almost always required a passage of licensure examination, including NAPLEX or CPJE, which is our board exam, as well as requiring certain years or months of probations.
Yeah, I've always been aware of the necessity for the exam, and probation is a new aspect to me. So forgive me for asking, but I just wanted the clarification.
And Your Honor, I will add that I was able to pull up the disciplinary guidelines, and on page 12, but it's 15 of the PDF, talks about exactly what the license reinstatement with precedent conditions would be, and then potential for terms of probation. So that is set forth in the disciplinary guidelines for the board.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Weinberg, would you like to make a closing? I believe you said that you may.
Yes, just I think everything that needed to be said has been said, but just a closing remark, and that would be, notwithstanding, excuse me, the conversation that's just taken place over the last few minutes, we're submitting this petition for reinstatement. We hope that the board will act favorably upon it. If there are requirements for probation, then Mr. Al-Badawi can look at it at that point and see if that's acceptable. But we'd like to submit and hope that the board will look favorably upon this petition.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The case is submitted and the record is closed. And we are off the record in this matter, and we'll proceed to the next petition when ready. And thank you
Your
both
Honor.
again. Yes?
We'll take a quick 5-minute break. Just